So today I wanted to talk about really just, believing in God. I really wanted to talk about the key reason why people will be going to hell. And people seem to not understand this, but hell is completely a choice. And I'm going to explain in today's video. So let's get into it. First off, there's something that we need to talk about before we build up to the main point. We're going to talk about trust, right? So what do we know about trust, right? There are people who will trust God, and there are people who will not trust God. The giant D, that's a giant D for trust. It stands for don't. I know it wasn't very drawn. It wasn't very well drawn. So what do we infer from that? It means there are people who will trust God, people who will not trust God, right? Obviously, the amount of people who will trust God is a lot smaller than people who won't trust God. Let's keep it a buck. You can't go out into today's society and maybe find 10 people in a row who truly trust God. You might find people who say it, but saying something's not the same thing as believing it or acting on it, right? So, getting on to the next part of the video. Follow the rules and don't follow the rules. There are people who will follow the rules, and there are people who will not follow the rules, right? So, obviously, not everyone follows the rules, right? And by not everyone, I mean no one follows the rules. There's only one person who ever lived who followed the rules, and that was Jesus. That's who we know to have followed the rules, right? So, yeah, basically, people who will follow the rules, people who don't follow the rules, right? Next up, we're going to talk about, you know, people who believe and people who not believe. So if you believe in air, you will take action to believing in air, right? You're not just going to say, I believe in air and then move on with your life. No, you're going to take action. And the action that you believe in air is that you just walk around every day without panicking that, you're going to run out of air. The person who doesn't believe in air is going to take very deep breaths every second of their life and try to store every bit of breath because they think that air doesn't exist and really doesn't make sense anyway. But if they must believe in some form of oxygen to come because people do exist, so they're just going to think that air is going to run out someday or some second, so they're just going to keep on conserving every bit of breath they have, right? So someone who believes in air will take action on it and show they believe in air. Someone who doesn't believe in air will take action on it as well, right? Their actions to believing in something and not believing in something. Next up, trusting in the chair and not trusting in the chair. Someone who trusts chairs is going to sit in them. We all have a trust for chairs. There are very few people who just don't trust chairs. Like generally, when have you ever met someone that has trusted a chair? If you have met somebody who has not trusted a chair, they are probably a very, very, very heavy person, right? Or the chair is just rickety, right? But that's usually not the case, considering that most chairs are built substantially well, right? But the person who doesn't trust a chair is going to think about it every time they see a chair. They're going to sit there and perform tests on it to see if it's going to hold their weight. But yeah, they don't trust it for the most part. So yeah, moving on to the next part. What is fair about God? Fairness, right? People would like to say that God is not fair, and the fact that not everyone will hear the gospel, not everyone will get to hear the good news of God, which isn't true at all. Well, actually, I'll say this: it is true that everyone might not hear the gospel, but belief is simply what saves us, right? Belief in God Himself. Whether you live in a city, yes, that's what that is. That's supposed to be the Empire State in New York, and that's supposed to be a tent. You can consider that whoever you want to be, someone, a tribal person, someone who's living in a tent in Australia, whatever. But someone who lives in a city, someone who lives in suburban, rural area, in the forest. They will all have the chance to go to heaven, right? Based on their own belief. You will see things in this world that support the idea that there is a God, that there is a creator, right? It's not just some simpleness of, oh, everyone who has never heard of the gospel is going to go to hell, right? No. And you know that wasn't the intended case of God, because he was going to make Jesus himself said that he was going to make his disciples fishers of men, right? He told them to spread the word. So it's clearly not God's intention to keep it for us to keep it to ourselves. It's good news. You spread good news everywhere. So what are the cases where someone's going to have to just go off of faith and believe there is a God? Okay, let's get to that. That's a pretty important part, right? So what you have is order, right? Order. The sun, yes, that's what that is. The sun sets every day and rises every day, right? The moon also does the same. Trees grow as they're intended, right? Obviously, without interruptions, they grow exactly how they're intended to grow, right? That's an example of order. You have order in those things, right? It rains every once in a while to after the heat, right? Now, obviously, there's some situations where it doesn't rain, but yet again, places where it doesn't rain often, that's also a sign of order. Like, for example, the desert doesn't just one day flood. That doesn't happen, right? There's order in the fact that the desert has controlled situations of rain, right? What we see as random, that's could be God's plan, right? How it rains maybe every 13 days, 20 days, 50 days, however many days, that could be exactly how God planned it. So I want to specify this now before the end of the video. Just because you don't understand how something works does not mean it does not work. And even more so, just because you don't understand what the creator of the universe is doing by how he does something does not invalidate what the creator of the universe is doing, right? That doesn't invalidate at all. Who are you, a person, literally a creation, to question how he thinks things should work? I'm not trying to do that to belittle you, but I'm just saying that doesn't make any sense. Your parent would be very confused. You would be very confused as a parent if your 2-year-old told you how to drive, because what on earth are they talking about, right? Anyway, moving on. So I didn't draw a picture for this next part. At least I don't think I did, just because it's a little more in-depth stuff. But let's analyze everything we talked about, right? We talked about trust. People who don't trust, people who don't follow the rules. We talked about believing in air, not believing in air, trusting in the chair, not trusting in the chair. The spreading of the gospel, how it will reach, how the spreading of the gospel doesn't reach everybody, but the idea of a God will reach everybody, right? So what can we infer from that? Why do people go to hell? People go to hell because they don't trust in Jesus. They don't trust in what God has done for them, right? Whether that be they reject it, or whether that be, what they just don't show and act on the fact they have faith, right? People in today's society will say they trust God, but they don't do actions that show that they trust God. They don't do actions that show that they believe in God, right? Going to the strip club or going to a bar before Sunday night and then going to church. Like, people make that a joke, but that's a joke. Obviously, that's what people do. But at the same time, that doesn't show you believe in God. You shouldn't be at a club. You shouldn't be at a strip club the night before Sunday, the night before any day. If you say you believe in God, that doesn't show that you believe in Him. That shows that you, what it shows is you believe in is that He's a punk, right? And that you can punk Him because you think that you can just go to the club one night and then go to church the next day and act like nothing happened, even though you know you didn't go to the club for a good reason. No one does, right? Just to hang out. You can just hang out at a friend's house. You can just hang out at McDonald's. Like, I know I sound super cheesy and lame right now, but like, generally, there's no reason for you to be in a club except for a few reasons. And I'm not gonna list them because you know what they are. You're not slow. Moving on. You'll notice here that I drew a trust sign here. You'll notice that I drew, like, one side, one side. That's how it is. It's black and white. It's not a situation of being in the middle. There is no middle. There is no lukewarmness, right? God does not trust lukewarmness. He doesn't trust lukewarmness. He will spit you out. The Bible says it itself. God does not rock with people who are lukewarm. And why should He? You're sitting on the fence doing this and that, right? You're saying you believe in God, but at the same time, every night you're at the club. You're cursing people out. You're having sex wherever you want to have sex, right? Whatever the case may be. You can't play both sides. You won't play both sides. Like, you can try it, but it's not going to work. You'll notice here that I also did follow rules, don't follow. There's not a single dot in follow the rules because no one does. But the good thing is that we don't have to follow the rules. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. The good thing is that we are not condemned if we don't follow the rules because God knows we're not perfect. God has to punish people if they are not just, right? Because He is a just God. But He knew that this is how the world will work out. So He prepared ahead of time for Jesus to come and save us, right? Now, let's get to the part of hell. Hell. Hell is eternal damnation. It's not fun. People like to try to make jokes about how hell is going to be super fun, how everyone famous is going to be in hell, right? How it's going to be a party because everyone you know is going to be there, right? I can promise you it's not going to be a party. It's one of those situations of someone being delusional, right? I don't really get why people think hell is going to be a party. I really just think it's them like trying to tell themselves that so they believe it, but they know it's not, like, truly. And the reason I know they know it's not is because they always fight to the nail about how God is unjust for doing it and sending people to there. Hell is completely a choice, and let me tell you why. You make choices every day in your life, right? I'm not going to draw people in here because that's just really weird for me to do. I'm not going to do that. There's no need for that. You can use your imagination. It's not fun. So I should have just drew the fire to begin with. There's no need to draw lines. Anyway, explaining hell. Eternal damnation. And hell is completely a choice. The reason why is because you chose to go your life believing that there wasn't a God, or you chose to go your life rejecting God, right? This brings up the idea of, the unforgivable sin. What is the unforgivable sin? It's blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. So blasphemy against the Holy Spirit can be multiple things, right? Blasphemy against the Holy Spirit can be you saying that the work of Jesus is the work of the devil. It's also saying that what Jesus did was not true. He wasn't who He said He was, and He was just a lucky guy, right? Blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is saying that you do not accept and you reject the gift of Jesus Christ. Um, I believe this. I believe this. I believe there's a lot of forgiveness from God, truly, because He forgives us for everything, right? He sent His own Son to die, and His own Son, on his dying breath, on his last few breaths, was asking God to forgive them because they didn't know what they were doing. Because they didn't. Some of them did, but not everyone did, right? Um, they just didn't know, right? He asked for forgiveness for them, which is just truly amazing. People who killed you, you're asking forgiveness for them, even though you did nothing wrong at all, right? I'm getting sidetracked here, but this is the point. You choosing to reject someone who did something so good for you, um, it leads to only bad, right? To reject someone for saving you is not something that you will be rewarded for, right? Now, at the same time, like I said, you choose to go to hell, and here's why. You choose to live a life where you don't acknowledge God, where you don't want to be around Him, where you just don't want to, you don't even want to hear His name, right? There is only one place that is like that after death. There's only one place. It's called hell, right? You won't have to see God. You won't have to hear Him. You won't have to feel Him. You won't have to look at Him. You won't have to say His name, right? Now, I do believe a lot of people will call on God from hell. A lot of people will curse God from hell, right? Um, a lot of those people will be people who claim to be Christian. A lot of those people will be atheists. A lot of those people will be people who believe in other religions, right? Yet again, everyone has the chance to accept Jesus Christ. And okay, well, what if I have it? What if I believe in a different religion? Okay, that's great. You believe in a different religion. Test the religion. Test your religion against Christ's religion. I want to note this: Christianity is the only religion. Um, Christianity is the only religion where God has come to people first. It's the only religion. Every other religion, you have to come to God. God came to us because He knew we were not perfect, which is the greatest thing, truly. Anyway, I'm ranting. I'll stop the video here. I really hope this is educational. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you have any questions, I have a TikTok. I debate on it pretty often. So yeah, thank you for watching. And until then, guys, stay safe. Trust in God. He's got you no matter what. Yeah.